So, this is definitely not the From the New World video that I've been working on. The scope for that video has kind of fucking exploded a bit, and I need a bit more time to work on it, so in the meantime, I thought I'd toss y'all this video as a bit of a treat to hopefully hold you over till I can finally get that done and out. I apologize for this, and for taking so long with that video, but I really want it to be the best it can be in regards to capping off talking about Shadow Hearts majorly, at least until Pennyblood comes out. I'll do my best to not get crazy perfectionist over it, I promise. Thank you all for your support and your patience, as it seriously means the world to me. Without further ado, on to the show! Growing up looking around on this big old bounty of an internet, I'd browse and peruse tons of games I would want or be interested in on a number of different websites I can and can't remember these days. I'm pretty sure one of them was just PlayStation's website, but I'd also check places like game trailers and whatnot, and just browse for hours and hours looking at a whole bunch of games that I couldn't own either due to rating since I was a kid, or money since, again, I was a kid. A lot of the games that would draw me towards them tended to be licensed stuff or franchises I vaguely knew at least a little about. So I'd see sequels, licensed stuff, and generally games I didn't know all that much about or had just never heard of. With the PS2's gigantic library, it always felt like digging through a treasure trove year after year, even if I spent most of my time only really playing Kingdom Hearts and Budokai 3 over and over again. I would long for games like Ghost Rider the video game because it looked like Devil May Cry and God of War, and I couldn't get either of those games that I also wanted. Gitaroo Man, Jaws Unleashed, Castlevania Lament of Innocence. I could really go on and on. There were just so many rad games on the system. As I grew older, I was far more focused on building up my PS3's library and had that same hunger and fascination with digging through its, at the time, growing library. I would dig around looking to see what was coming out in the HD era, try out demos, watch trailers, watch the tester.
We went from the hopeless to the hope this guy never shows up at my house.
I'm the ultimate gamer. I should test everything.
Just see what the new gen had in store for us. The new tech of the HD era fascinated me, and I'd hear about devs really wanting to get something out of these machines. Given all that I had was MotorStorm and Heavenly Sword, I wanted to know what this machine was capable of. Sometime around 2010, I picked up a Game Informer magazine, and reading through it somewhere in the preview section, I found a little old game called Nier. This is how I learned about Cavia. Nier to me is something near and dear to my heart. A game that comes along every now and again that deeply impacts you in a way that you think about for many years after experiencing it. Like, I don't want to overhype Nier because, like, you don't need me to tell you that Nier as a series is good. But it really is one of those special games that means the absolute world to me. Automata is also very good, but I still prefer the OG for just where its story goes in the end. Ending B in particular hits me really hard. I had to know more about the studio that made it and the team behind it. This is how I learned about Cavia. To me, from that point on, Cavia became something special of sorts. I began looking through, emulating, and finding ways to play and try out their catalog of games. This is how I learned of their exact presence within the industry at large. They were responsible for games like Drakengard, which I didn't know of the full Nier connection when I played Nier for the first time years and years ago at this point. Resident Evil Dead Aim and its B-movie level atmospheric, neat building upon the Survivor games that preceded it type vibe. Beatdown Fist of Vengeance, which I just adore from top to bottom, jank and all. It's just such a cool game that's clearly going for so much within its beat-em-up scope. I genuinely believe if that game came out today, it probably would have done pretty alright, or at least captured more of an audience. That Ghost in the Shell standalone complex game that I personally feel very well captures the feeling of the show through gameplay and narrative fucking perfectly. We're not done talking about that game just yet though, so just keep in mind that they made that. They even made a neat fixed camera angle Kamen Rider game and a really dope Steamboy game that both never made it over to the West. They were always in one way or another behind the scenes in ways that I'd never realized from games that I either kind of knew about as a kid, like Beatdown, or didn't know about at all, like RE Dead Aim. See, and this is where you would think that around this time is where I heard about Bullet Witch, but actually, nope, I'd known about Bullet Witch since I was a kid. In that transition from the PS2 era to the PS3 and 360 era, I'd seen a game around in shops, online, that always captured my attention. Bullet Witch. I'd always thought this game just looked cool. While everyone tended to say that the game was bad or whatever, like fucking cowards, I would look at footage people uploaded of this thing. It looked jank, but it looked fun to just run around in. The fact that she was a cool witch with a sick-ass changing gun broom and spells that went hard as hell like this, piqued my interest in a way that I didn't quite expect. It filled me with a gender envy I didn't understand at the time. Well, her and the Hex Girls, they defo put a spell on me. And the want to play a shooter exactly like this that, as I grew older, began to feel very different from a number of the samey looking shooters that littered store shelves, after the popularity of games like Gears of War. Here's looking at you, Quantum Theory. God, remember Quantum Theory? Me neither. So the years passed, and I would think about it from time to time. It was trapped on the 360, and for a long time I didn't have a 360, so I couldn't get it. I played that hack rip-off Bayonetta, which is totally the same. I would think about this game, but again, I just didn't play it. Then finally, one fateful day, the moon riseth in the sky, the incantations were cast. Bullet Witch was ported to PC by Xseed. Just out of fucking nowhere. No fanfare, not a lot of marketing buzz about this mystical port appearing out of the ether. Xseed just basically announced it and released it with maybe a few small patches and general fixes to make the gameplay far smoother than the 360 release, and without Atari's meddling to the port. I was ecstatic. I was elated. I was so ready to play this fucking game that I pretty instantly bought it. I was all in to play this mystery early HD era enigma to me that was but a dream before this point. I was so happy that it was finally on a platform that it could be preserved forever on, where it would always be playable in some fashion. I finally got to play Bullet Witch. It was everything I wanted and more. Now listen, alright, this ain't some narrative magnum opus or some extremely well-written game. The narrative here blends that B-movie, 2000s, sci-fi and Fox cheesy show that would air for maybe a season at best energy that I just eat the fuck up. It's got a witch trying to make up for the sins of her father and the guilt that she feels over her own resurrection, causing the apocalypse of the world and the slow but steady downfall of humanity. It's got the most American to American all over America, played by Goku, and nobody else really. I like how some of the mechanics, like Alicia's healing spell that takes a bit of her own life and literal blood to give to others, could be seen as representative of her paying for the sins of her father in her own blood, this being a kind of personal way of making up for the mistake of being brought back, and in turn, damning the world completely against what she would have ever wanted, but was forced upon her by her father. She keeps her distance and is always fairly cold, with a chilled sense of humor to go with that.
アリシア、さっきのは見事な一撃だったな。それとちょうどいいニュースが入った。もうすぐ司令部に到着だ。
悪いニュースもあるわ。エンジンにダメージを受けた。
God, that's so good. The story isn't necessarily nothing, but outside of what I mentioned, I don't think it's all that well explored, and outside of the small bits and pieces it throws to the player, it's mostly cheesy B-movie the whole way through, overdoing anything extremely compelling with its writing, which I don't think media always has to go for some meaningful, deep, or ever-present narrative. It all just depends on what the people making it want to do. This game for me coasts on vibes and the feel of that combat. It's a game full of ambition, made by a team emboldened by the start of the HD era, and wanting to make something really cool with the new tech of the time. This team looked at manga like Kurohime, Gothic Fashion, and the Xbox 360 and said, yeah, we can do that, and by God, Could they ever do that? This game is in many ways like playing a video game adaptation of the Witchblade anime from like 2006. Watch the 2006 Witchblade anime, you coward. Fuck any other adaptation, they're all trash. Gonzo's anime adaptation is the best Witchblade thing ever made. It's so fucking good. We stan Masane in this house. Bullet Witch just captures that perfect early HD gen feel of devs just fucking around with all this new tech and seeing what they could do with it, using it as a new, bigger, expanded canvas to paint onto and see what would happen. Reminds me of games like Folklore, Gundam Crossfire, and Enchanted Arms for very similar reasons. Games that felt like they'd fit neatly within the PS2, but were experimenting with and feeling out the new hardware to test the waters for cool new things they weren't able to really do before. Trying things with graphics, physics engines, mechanical ideas that may have not been possible without blowing the console up before then. This era birthed games that, while they didn't fully work or may have been messy with possibly messy dev cycles, these motherfuckers had gusto, you know? At that time, you could pop something in like Alone in the Dark 2008, and you didn't know what you were gonna get. Could have been good, or could have been total shit.
Now give me my stone!
I don't have your stone, and fuck you anyway!
All these weird mechanical ideas and shit thrown around cause the next gen was here, baby. Real-time inventory management, shit with physics and fire and beating monsters with chairs and fire bullets, shit fucked around, and that was rad as hell. The rules and standards of different genres and styles were finally solidifying more around this era of gaming, but there were still a lot of devs just trying shit to see what stuck early on, and it was dope. Far Cry 2 and its huge open world and focus on fire tech is another good example at the time. Bullet Witch's big claims to fame were the fairly fun uses of environmental destruction, glass breakage, and huge environmental effects via the spells that you get. How much could be rendered on screen as you mow down enemies with your rad broom gun. It feels like this rad little gothic, fantastical, apocalyptic toy box of experimentation. Even within the concept levels, which are little bonus missions you can play once you beat the game, they tend to scatter a bunch of physics shit all over for the player to fuck with and blow up. It's loose and goofy and gamey as hell, and within that looseness, you can do fucking flips and spear some dudes and chuck ravens at them. The vibes are just so tasty, so zesty in a way that's hard to fully even put into words. The movement even using the same movement systems of the Ghost in the Shell standalone complex game Cavia worked on before this, which is extremely dope as fuck. Movement in that game feels tight and perfectly captures the Major's flips and acrobatic leaps she does within the films and series. Here, this gives Alicia a fun kind of movement that encourages you to keep moving, weaving throughout combat like she's a rabbit who's just gonna keep hopping and jumping around like she just don't care. Like you're the witch dancing upon those bullets. Though it's a janky dodge here, to be honest. Sometimes dodging sniper fire that sometimes hits you when it absolutely fucking shouldn't have at all. Fucking Halo 2 legendary jackal sniper ass bullshit. But fuck, when it does work and you dodge that sniper shot, does it feel good and look cool. And your loadout consists of a very overpowered machine gun that, once leveled up all the way, just blasts down basically everything easy as fuck in a dope ass way. A shotgun that feels oh so crunchy and blasts the Geists back to the hell they came from. The cannon, which is a sniper, and that's bad. Have fun killing those snipers with it. And a Gatling gun that looks cool and can chain link electric attacks but isn't as good as the machine gun, I gotta be real. Basically, the machine gun is your new god, and flipping around and using it rules. I don't give a fuck. The other guns might not be as good, but the feel, flipping around and blasting motherfuckers down is rad as hell. Shit just feels cool. It is cool. It captures the goofy vibe of a film like Daredevil.
Bullseye. Huh?
Again, this is a game that screams 2000s era, late night Fox sci-fi era, Evanescence AMV ass, je ne sais quoi schlock that is just hypnotic to me. Cleopatra 2525 in video game form.
The year 2525, there are women with the will to survive.
Looking at this Japanese interpretation of Americana, the suburbia in ruin, the city burning down as it struggles to stay together, the sewers and airport sieged, the foggy and thickly atmospheric European village where the horror first began, the people either completely gone or waiting to be transformed into horrific monstrosities against their will. Can you tell which is my favorite level yet? The city completely destroyed upon your return, poisoned skies and ruined architecture. The atmosphere, the environments, the feel of it all just clicks for me. I adore just running around and looking at some of these environments, sitting within them and taking in their vibes. Vampire Rain's environments give me similar vibes, even if I tend to prefer the absolutely thick and rain-drenched atmosphere of that game's environments more. Vampire Rain is so cool too, even with the issues that it has. Those environments and that atmosphere are both fucking perfecto. The horror of just being some person trying to sneak past those vamps in this early HD gen stealth game that's shooting for the MGS-shaped stars, with its concept and huge-ass environments. Feels like they looked at the hardware that they had an idea for it, and just fucking went for it, even if they didn't land it perfectly. That's Bullet Witch. The huge spells that blow up gas stations, the building destruction, the large, huge-ass environments, the barriers, the effects, and constant debris, the fucking pure inspiration and ambition. I just can't help but love it regardless of its issues. I just don't give a shit. Like Bionic Commando 2009, it just hits for me in a way that fun B-movies do. Oh, you, my sweet, my precious. We'll get to you sometime in the future. Everyone needs to experience true Kino. In a gen that had boring shit that were all striving to be exactly the same type of boring, lame-ass shooter because that's what was making money, early gen was just fucking around, fucking with physics, putting dumb control shit in there, throwing a dragon into it. You get a lair, you know? Yeah, it was bad, but it had that butter it was churning, you know? It had that fucking spice. This isn't a video to say that we don't get things with that spice, or that we don't get neat, interesting, fuck around with the tech type experiences still. I promise, I am not one of those people who are all like, modern games all bad. But as the AA sector died during the PS3 and 360 era, there was definitely a loss of fucking around with games like that from smaller studios. Every now and again, you'd get a strange outlier like Mindjack, but most times you'd get an inversion. You wouldn't really get much of a Bullet Witch like you used to, though AA games have been steadily making their return. More smaller little weird experiments and strange shit from even the big publishers and players have been making a kind of comeback. Square recently putting out games like Diofield Chronicles and Harvestella, I would argue, are pretty good signs that smaller scale, weird, experimental shit is back. The gates are open for weird little games like Bullet Witch from small teams trying to make shit. Hell, recently I was playing One Piece World Seeker. Haven't seen or read a lot of One Piece, honestly, but I picked it up and something about it just screams the vibes of Bullet Witch and games exactly like it. Just this focus on this mechanical idea, in this game's case, the gum rocketing around, and just the pure fun of that idea. The jank yet earnest feel of the gum rocket on top of how much fun it is to do as you get from place to place and area to area. The openness of its environments. Games like this don't have to be great for me to love them. They just fascinate me regardless. I find the way games like this come out to just be lovely and endearing. I hope we always get games like Bullet Witch for that reason. Obviously, I hope games get to come out finished and as good as they can, but I love even messy-ass experiments and strives towards ideas and shit the devs want to go for. There was a certain kind of feeling during this early HD era that we just haven't gotten since the leaps in tech these days just aren't as granular as it was for a long time before then. Not that impressive strives aren't being made nowadays, of course, but just weird-ass little games like this that go for what they're doing and playing with the new hardware while inviting you, the player, to play around with the devs just doesn't happen really as much as it used to. Not in the same exploring physics engines and exploring this new tech kind of way. Diminishing returns are very real, and that do be how it is. Jank will always have its place in my heart. That to me is the Bullet Witch spirit. It's the Rising Zon's Samurai Gunman spirit. It's the Alone in the Dark 2008 spirit. It's just cool. Cavia to me, after I played Nier, are like the peak example of a studio being driven by this constant ambition, even within their license titles. That even working within the structure of a Ghost in the Shell series tie-in game, the team would then be inspired to try their hand at their own original action game with its own feel and vibes and ideas while looking at the new tech on the horizon and seeing what they could do with it. They had their own pure hunger for experimentation and just game creation that didn't get the appreciation that they deserved at the time. The HD era made and broke a lot of studios. As companies struggled to learn and adapt to the new tech, we got a lot of neat remnants of the era. I know this video went all over in regards to the HD era and Bullet Witch in general as a whole, but this era specifically in these early games like Bullet Witch in ways mean a lot to me. All these devs putting their ideas to the test, making neat and fairly creative experiences, showing the true beauty of artistic creation. The type of shit I love to see within any medium is a medium that accepts fucking around and just making something dope like this. Cavia to me really hit when they did, and they absolutely no doubt had misses, but I love them regardless of that. Not everything someone makes is gonna hit or be some pristine banger of an experience, but they shined on in spite of that and really died way too soon. Rip to a real one, and lights up to all the studios who have either died in the pursuit of ambition and inspiration, or continue to try doing rad shit even if it doesn't turn out perfect. Nothing but respect for Mindjack. Heyo, first want to just give a shout out to my patrons. I'm seriously grateful to all of you from the bottom of my heart. Your support for what I do here genuinely means the absolute world to me, and I appreciate all of you. The $5 Radder Magical Person tier is listed in the credits on the screen, and the $10 Raddest Magicalist Person tier get verbal shoutouts, those being Ginger, Scared Confusion, and Wiley S. Allard. Thank you to all of my patrons for your support. If you would like to support the Patreon, it is linked in the description. And I appreciate anybody and everybody who even just watches what I do and shares my work and everything. I really do appreciate all of you from the bottom of my heart. So yeah, the Shadow Hearts video, I'm working on it. I'm doing my best to get it out. It's, like I said, it's probably going to take about a month or two more. We'll see what happens. The scope of it has kind of exploded, and I need time to just work on it. I need time to do a little bit of extra research and some extra things. Let's just say there's a couple films I've needed to watch. There's some anime I've needed to watch, and I'm tempted to bring one of them up here. Yeah, fuck it, I'll bring it up, because I watched it with, I watched an anime in slight preparation with friend of the channel, Media Diver, and that is Devilman OVA from the late 80s and early 90s. So that's a taste of part of what is going to what's going to be brought up at a certain point within that video. I'm trying to make sure that the scope of the video, as far as what I'm fully talking about, doesn't get too off course, but I want to make sure that this is good. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm trying not to get too perfectionist over it, but I feel like sometimes my videos are kind of in the shadow of the Kodelka video, but that's also a thing just in my head, and I need to kind of remember the whole what is it? It's that one picture where a person is oh damn, my cake isn't as good as that cake, and then somebody's oh shit, 2 cakes. I think people will just people just like what I do, and I need to have more faith in what I do and not get as obsessive over details. So yeah, it'll be out when it's out. I'm gonna do my best to have it out within the next 2 months. My goal at the moment is end of June, but we'll see what happens. If it gets pushed back, it gets pushed back. It's gonna be long, so it's yeah, and I've been working on my workflow again, because I started a full-time job, so I need to work that with this, and I basically am trying to treat this as a second job, and then working kind of my schedule all together, making sure I give this enough time while also, living and having a life. But yeah, so as far as maybe things I've been watching and playing, I tried out that Square Enix, the Square Enix AI tech preview, the Portopia serial murder case. I tried that out because I've always heard about the original game, but I'd never played it, and I was curious. I'm skeptical of AI tech as far as writing goes, but practical uses of it within systems I think is cool, and so I was actually really interested in trying this out. this was bad. You can read my Backloggd review about it. I won't go super far into it because I kind of wrote all my thoughts there, so I'll link that review in the description if you want to check that out. But no, this was bad. It like just blatantly doesn't work the way they advertise it. So unless you're supposed to have like a supercomputer that can run this shit, I guess, which maybe that's the problem. From what I've heard, I hear it like works a little better if you like turn on a certain setting, but like you need like a beefier graphics card or something for it to run. I don't know. All I know is I tried playing it and it didn't fucking work, and I feel like if it can't even work at like the base level, then you failed, and it's just every adventure game. Not every adventure game. It has the problems that it says it's trying to eliminate. So I don't know. I also played Katamari Damacy for the first time, and that game rules. That game's cool. That game's really good. So yeah, I also wrote about that on Backloggd, and you can check that out. As far as stuff I've watched, I checked out again the Devilman OVA, which is sick as shit. It's really good. I like the first episode better than the second one, but they're both good. They're both great. I also checked out Star Wars Visions Season 2, or Volume 2, I guess. And it's pretty good. I liked pretty much every short except for 2 of them fully. And even then, there was still something I liked within them. The best short in it was Screecher's Reach. Please watch Screecher's Reach. It's really good. It's like... I have a lot of problems with Star Wars as like a franchise. That has probably my favorite Star Wars story that I've like ever seen. It's really good. It's one of them. It's up there. It's a very good short film. It's a very good short. It's tragic. It's good. I wrote about that on Letterboxd. If you would like to check that out, it's in the description as well. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. Like I said, I'm gonna work to make sure that this video is out hopefully within the next, I'm gonna say month, but it could be 2. So stay tuned. I promise I am working at shit. It's just I ended up releasing this because like genuinely I felt bad. I was like, because like a lot of people look at things as like, oh, you should look at yourself as like your own favorite content creator, and I kind of do. Like I mainly make these videos also for me, you know, and like I always get bummed when, you know, creators I like, you know, like it's not that I like, oh, I expect and demand content from people that I like whose shit I like, but it's like I'm always like looking forward to like, you know, what they're making and stuff. And so I'm looking forward to myself making this, and then it's like not, you know, things are taking a while, and that's just how it is, and I'm just like, fuck, I need to make thing. But yeah, my goal is going to be to try to get that out within the next month or 2. So stay tuned. I hope you all dig what I'm doing. And if you're new to the channel and you're just subscribing for the first time, I want to welcome you to the Coven.